Today I thought we would paint a tall, skinny evergreen tree. You could turn this into a Christmas tree. You could paint a series of these on bigger paper or just the single. It's just kind of a striking image and it's pretty fun. So my paper is 9 by 12 and I'm going to limit this to half the page. So I'm just drawing a really light line down the middle so that I know where my border is. And then the other thing I'm gonna do to set this up is I'm gonna draw kind of a triangle just so that I have an idea of how to make the branches slightly wider as I come down. So I'm gonna stop the tree shape right about here so I have room for the trunk. And I made a dot at the top, drawing a straight line down. That's the trunk of the tree going up. And then down here at the bottom is the widest it can be. So actually, I'm gonna go up about an inch from the bottom of the tree, and that's gonna be where my widest branches are. So you could use a ruler for this, or you could just eyeball it, just drawing a triangle. Now, as I paint, I'm gonna be making branches and they're gonna reach out to the edges of this triangle. Can you see that shape? It's pretty light. You'll see as I paint here what I mean. Okay, I'm gonna use this, it's a size 6 brush, and I need to make some good greens now. So, I have this lighter color here, this lighter brown that I'm gonna use. And then I'm gonna add a darker brown to it. I'm just gonna draw the middle line of the tree with this darker brown. I mean, the lighter brown, it's very pale. And I'm gonna draw it and I'm gonna skip some places. This is mostly, for me, a lot of this is gonna get covered with green. And then here's the trunk, and this can be wider. And we'll add some darker elements of brown and black to that too. And now I'm just gonna get kind of sketchy with this. Let's see, I have this palette that has room for a new green. I have these greens left over. This is kind of like a pale, this was emerald green and white and a little bit of black, and this was emerald green and brown and quite a lot of black. I'm gonna use those colors also, but to start, I'm gonna use a brighter green, and I need to make that. So, and this is a bigger painting. I'm gonna need more paint for this. I'm gonna use the emerald green. I'm gonna wipe my brush to get all that paint in there. And then I want some yellow. I'm really running low on yellow in my palette. I have to use a lot of it. I'm gonna, let's see, do I have any in here? I have a little. So we want this to be pretty, this is gonna be the lightest shade of green there is, so I want it to be pretty light. That's probably good. I'll try it and see. And with this is a size 6. I'm gonna switch to the small brush too, but I'm gonna start at the top above my triangle and make a pretty thin line. This is the very tip top of this tree. And then just gonna work my way down. So little dabs heading out. I want the bigger part of the branch where I push harder with the brush to be right at the tree trunk. And then I'm gonna lift up as I get out farther. So I'm kind of like pushing the paint here and there. and trying to get out to this pencil border that I made for myself. I'm leaving some gaps in the trunk, and some of those will get filled in with darker paint color and some of them won't. And that's fine too. So their branches are pretty thick, close to the trunk, and they really taper off at the end. I'm trying to vary so that some of them point up at the end and some point down. And as we get down here, the branches are a lot thicker as we get down closer to the ground. I'm running out of paint already. So I'm just about to the place where I decided the widest part of this tree is going to be. So it looks like I need to mix up a little bit more, but not a ton. Oh, but I need more yellow. Oh, I'm just going to use this straight out of the palette. No, I'm not. Look at that. It's awful. I don't know what it is about greens for me. I just always have to mix. Let's see if that's better. Okay. Now the next branches are a little bit shorter as we get down to the thicker trunk. And then I put a couple like that. And I meant, before I put the brown away, I meant to do some smaller little, we'll do it with the small brush too, but some dead branches. There's usually dead branches down at the bottoms of these trees. Okay, I need this for the darker brown now. I mean the darker green. So let's see what this green looks like for this tree. I think it needs to be a little darker, but I'm gonna try it. Yeah. I'm just gonna use this really dark one next, I think. I might try this real light green out of the palette and just add, oh yeah, that's pretty good actually. Use a small brush. This light green, it's pretty yellowy. So while I let the rest of this dry a little bit, I'm just gonna add little touches of it kind of out closer to the end of the branches. Because the dark color is going to be pretty concentrated down the middle, down the trunk. But I'll add a few little wispy light green This brush is also good for kind of continuing the branches and helping to make them a little more pointy, because these all end kind of as a blob. So I can push that paint out just a little bit more and make them a little pointier. The trunk of this tree looks pretty weird right now, but we're gonna add a lot of dark paint in there for the shadows, and that'll help fill it in. Hang with me here. So I'm just putting this color, this lighter color, up high above the branches, mostly out at the tips and kind of like right on the top. It'll just get covered if I put it too close to the trunk. It won't show up later. Okay, let's finish making these pointy. Okay, I think it's mostly dry enough now to start adding in this darker shade. It's starting to get dark outside too, so I'm hoping we can finish this before it gets too dark. Okay, I want it to be wet, but I don't want really big puddles. So I'm gonna start adding this in places where I don't have gigantic puddles, and I'll show you what I mean. So I want this at the middle, and then I wanna bring it out. So they're kind of, this color is kind of trying to make, we're making it more three-dimensional, giving it more depth, and if you can imagine starting at the trunk and coming down and out, not all the way to the tip, but it kind of makes it look like there's a branch here that's almost coming towards us. And then it's also filling in all these shadowy places. So if you start by coming down the trunk just a little bit and then go out, whichever direction you need to add shadow to, that makes it look pretty realistic, I think. And then some of these branches can just be with the dark color too. I'm running out of the dark. I gotta make a little bit more. So it was emerald green and brown. And then I have to just slowly add black to it. Okay. So I need a little bit at the top. I'm gonna do that with a smaller brush. So so I don't overwhelm it. Okay, small brush. First, I'm gonna kind of feather these out, just like we did with the other ones. Make them a little pointier, less blobby. And then I'm also looking at the trunk to make sure that it's pretty filled in and we don't have any weird gaps. I want the trunk to look like it's getting skinnier and skinnier as it goes up. But I don't want there to be any strange spots where it's really thin. That'd be weird. It's hard for me to know when to stop with these. I kind of usually like to squint a little bit and see if there are places that look really dark or really light and they look kind of strange that way, like they're missing something. But also usually when I say to myself, I don't know when to stop, it usually is when I need to stop. So with that in mind, I'm gonna darken the trunk and I'm gonna stop. And tomorrow when I look at this, when it's totally dry, I might notice something that looks super weird and add to it, or maybe make a little adjustment, but for now, I think I'm gonna stop. So trunk definitely needs to be darkened. Just gonna add a layer of darker brown to it. And then maybe a little bit of black on it also. Just where the dead trunks, the dead branches are attaching, I'm gonna add a little black underneath those. And down at the bottom. And I think that's where I'll stop, although the top I'm gonna just make a tiny bit longer. I need that bright green again, there it is. Okay, that's that. Tall evergreen tree.